I would certainly be in favor of allowing states to use the bankruptcy route.
Good evening. First, I would like to thank our oldest grandson, Jacob, who's been doing research for me on the last couple of segments of Following Mitch's Money. I want to provide a clear delineation between Mitch for corporations and money, and Mitch for the common folk and we the people. If you have listened to a previous presentation, you know these two things. Mitch has said the way to win elections is money. And we've also learned that it takes a donation level of at least $25,000 in order to get in to see Mitch. So why do corporations provide funds for legislators and lobby Congress? Obviously, to them, this is a cost of doing business, and the payback is legislation for those who provide money to our Mitch and other politicians. The Blackstone Group is a perfect example of how business is done in Washington. It is an American multinational private equity alternative investment management and financial services firm based in New York City. Its tentacles, though, are far-reaching. Just recently, it completed the purchase of Ancestry. Its tentacles extend to many politicians, including our Senator Moscow Mitch. The Blackstone Group has donated $30 million to the Senate Leadership Fund. As a Senate Majority Leader, Mitch certainly has a say to who these funds are distributed to. Blackstone has donated close to $300,000 individually to Mitch. I would bet that the CEO, Schwartzman, has Mitch's personal cell phone number. As noted in an article from everyvoice.org, McConnell's all-time #1 donor over the course of his career in the Senate is Blackstone. It's a company that has made big bets on coal over the years. Recently, it's launched Blackstone Energy Partners II, which has raised $4.5 billion for investments in the energy sector. I think this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us, C.E. Schwartzman told the Business Standard. It's going to be one of the best opportunities we've had in many, many years. In the summer of 2014, as his highly contested election was approaching, McConnell was caught on tape telling a group of high-level donors gathered at a strategy conference sponsored by the mega donor Koch brothers that if elected, he would go after the Environmental Protection Agency by placing riders on spending bills. That was just a few years ago. Now let me tie this into Mitch's current and continuing disregard of the common folk. I'm quoting from an article in The Atlantic. States need help. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell does not want to provide it. On the Hugh Hewitt Show on April 23rd, he proposed another idea. Instead of more federal aid, states should cut their spending by declaring bankruptcy. This is his quote. I would certainly be in favor of allowing states to use the bankruptcy route. It saves some cities, and there's no good reason for it not to be available. My guess is their first choice would be for the federal government to borrow money from future generations to send it down to them now so they do not have to do that. That's not something I'm going to be in favor of. He expanded on the state bankruptcy concept later that day in a phone interview with Fox News' Bill Hemmer. We are not interested in solving their pension problems for them. We're not interested in rescuing them from bad decisions they've made in the past. We're not going to let them take advantage of this pandemic to solve a lot of problems that they created for themselves with bad decisions in the past. Blackstone and millions of dollars to Mitch versus the common folk and we the people, who is going to win that battle? Isn't it refreshing to be lectured by someone who has been on the public dole essentially his whole life? Someone who makes almost $200,000 per year, yet refuses to consider raising the federal minimum wage. The House passed the HEROES bill over 3 months ago, and that would have included funding for state city governments across the U.S. Mitch was happy to provide trillions of dollars for big business through an earlier stimulus package. His father-in-law's business obtained funds from the Payroll Protection Program. Wonder why he just didn't tell his father-in-law to file bankruptcy, along with the hundreds of businesses that obtained money from the government. Would this have anything to do with businesses being able to afford the buy-in? Mitch did not allow the Senate to opine on this bill. In the last couple of weeks, he did propose the Senate Hills bill, and this bill did not provide any funding for states. I guess the states do not need help in the pandemic. During the 2020 election cycle, Blackstone contributed almost $32 million to politicians. That amount is the third highest spent by any company. During 2019, Blackstone spent over $3.6 million in lobbying. This firm has contributed over $64 million in politicians and an additional $34 million in lobbying. Again, these funds help buy a seat at the table. If you want to meet with Mitch, then bring at least $25,000 to the table and try to compete with the $64 million. The common folk continue to be forgotten by Mitch. Mitch wants states to declare bankruptcy. Mitch passes laws that help corporations who provide him more money to win elections and remain in power. Mitch wants to get rid of Social Security. Mitch is now making the rounds in Kentucky during the pandemic, during a time when legislation is needed to help the Americans who work hard every day and are just barely making it. He is going around the state handing out your money, to encourage you to vote for him again. Isn't 36 years enough of this? It is time. Now is the time to ditch Mitch on November 3rd, 2020.
Take your money and go. 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 Take your money and go.
This partisan impeachment will end today.